Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about strategies and schemes. First off, we are not using schemes. No, we do not use schemes for demos, because even though they're fun and you can show a player the schemes, you might be even tempted to demonstrate, I'm going to show you what Frame for Murder looks like after Lady Justice cuts Madame Sibel here in half. Just to show them that those do exist, but you really don't want to play schemes during the demo. I think it takes away too much of the focus from the game itself, the heart of the game, which is trying to get your strategy and trying to deny your opponent their strategy. As far as strategies that I use, historically, what I used to do was destroy the evidence and treasure hunt. Things that use movement, things that are a little bit different than your typical wargame slaughter scenario. So while you can play slaughter, if you are crunched for time and you're trying to get in a shorter demo, maybe pull the counters off the table and just do slaughter, just so that you can show them the duels. However, if you're dealing with a fairly experienced wargamer, show them that one of the things that's different about this game, in that, hey, I can wipe out your entire crew, but you still won the demo. And I've done that from time to time. And that's really not that mean-spirited, because you're actually teaching them that they won the game, but they lost their models. And that's one of the things uniquely interesting about Malifaux, and it might be one of the reasons why they end up playing this over another war game. But in this case, one of the things that we moved to very recently with the update to Gaining Grounds 2012-2013 is we went to a shared line in the sand. Now, we were using that before, but we were using it as an individual strategy. Shared line in the sand, as it turns out, is very fun for a demo, and it's very easy to follow. It also means that the henchmen can also control their victory scenarios. For example, if it's a wargamer and the person's just there trying to shoot Sibel, maybe she goes over and she knocks one of these in her favor, and then you explain to the player that, hey, I'm winning even though you just killed my model. If the player is spending more of their time getting the objectives, as they should, then you spend a little bit more time doing some damage, maybe trying to take out one or two of the models before they go down. Now, from a combat standpoint, ideally, what I like to do is I like to remove maybe one of their models, one or two, depending on how things are going, and I like to get wiped out. That's just my personal preference. That doesn't work every single time, but if the player is doing some heavy wargaming, trying to wipe me out, I'll outscore them and show them, hey, I'm winning. That might turn them around into going for the strategy themselves, and then that ends up being a very powerful demo as well. So you see, you really can't mess things up as long as you have the right strategy chosen, and you're teaching the players some important things. The strategy is everything in this game, as you know, so that's what we like to move them towards. So as far as some other items that you need to have on hand, these are going to be things that you should already know that you need before you try to run any demos. Simple things like tape measure would be good, dry erase markers, obviously all of your counters, so you're going to need corpse counters in this case. I don't believe there are blasts generated by these crews, so you may not need a 50. But corpse counters are good, those sorts of things are good. One of the tools that we use that I've shown on this video, this channel a few times, are our SoCal Malifaux cards that has the handy-dandy quick reference chart on the back, along with their Soulstone code. And this is a great tool because they use this during the demo. They get to see how Soulstones work. They get to see how the damage totals affect your damage flips. They get to see some other things that you can do with Soulstones. And the nice thing is they get to walk away with this card that's got all of your information on it. So that's a great little tool that we devised for our club, and it's working out quite well. You're also going to want some play decks. I like to use the standard Fate decks when I can, and I try to match up the little stripe with whatever crews I'm demoing with. You don't necessarily have to do that, but just avoid using the exact same type of deck. So if you are using a Retro Fate deck, don't use a second Retro Fate deck for the player. Same thing with the Puppet deck. If you're using a Puppet deck, don't use the same deck for the player. You can, however, use a Puppet deck and a regular Malifaux deck, or a Retro deck and a Malifaux deck at the same time. Okay, so mechanically, what are our goals? We talked about strategy a little bit, and that being the key. We talked about some ways that you can manipulate this demo to show players specific things. But let's talk about bare bones basics. What are the things that the player needs to see? Now, note, these are not things that the player needs to memorize. They don't need to walk away with a absolutely profound working knowledge of the rules. They just need to see those different mechanics in action. So here's what I'm talking about. They need to see, for example, a simple duel. The simple duel can be a terrifying check, which is also a morale duel. So you're going 2 for 1. So they need to see a simple duel. They need to see different types of opposed duels, ranged duels, melee duels. They need to see a charge. If a charge happens, they need to see how to work a charge. They need to see cover. They don't need to, but in this demo, it's good to use like mushrooms as cover and that kind of thing, so that they can see how powerful cover can be and minus flips. They also need to see resist duels, and this is where I make a pretty strong distinction. I do insist that on a demo that a player needs to see an opposed ranged or melee duel where you're flipping cards at the same time, and then they need to see a spell and resist duel, because that's where you explain to the player that they have to build their total. The casting player has to build their total up front, and the opposing player has to try to resist, walking into that duel knowing how much of a total they're going up against. Some other things that are good to see are things like slow to die, zero actions. Differences in melee ranges are also very important. Sometimes firing into combat and randomizing the shooting is also a good one. But for bare bones raw mechanics, and I'm talking about taking those out, we're talking about those duels: simple duels, opposed duels, resist duels. If they want to see morale, that's a great one. And again, with these two crews, you get all of those duels. With 6 models, you get all those duels, and you should easily be able to cover that in 2 turns. And which brings us to the concept of timing. How many turns does a demo need to go? A demo, at the bare minimum, should go 2 turns. And the reason why it needs to go 2 turns and not 1 is because they need to see the deck shuffling at the end of a turn. They need to see the draw and discard phase with their fate, their control hand at the end of a turn. So it needs to go at least 2 turns. A strong demo will go 3 turns. A full demo, if somebody's really into it and you don't have anybody else waiting around for a demo, take them out all 6 turns. Now, on this 11 by 14 game, this should be over in 3 turns. There should be really there should be nothing left except for the winning player at the end of 3 turns, or all 3 dynamite counters will be accounted for by the end of that. So that's how long the demo should go. 2 turns, ideally, can take you about 15 minutes if things are going smoothly. Now, when I'm talking about time in the 15-minute demo, though, I need to stress this. The only person whose time is important during the demo is the demoee. Okay, you are there to show them the game. If it takes you an hour to show them a 11 Soulstone game, take an hour. If they need to be done in 10 minutes, shorten things up. Cut to the chase. Stick to what I said. What was important: the types of duels, moving, charging, line of sight, those things. Stick to that. Again, you need to be able to adjust what you are showing to the needs of your player. That's not just the needs of the duels themselves, but also considering their background. If we're talking about a veteran wargamer, you can move through rules explanations quite quick. If we're talking about somebody brand new to miniatures games, even showing them how to move around the board can take 5 to 10 minutes. Even talking about facing and activation order, that can take 5 to 10 minutes. So I know we're talking about a fast demo, and everybody wants to get done and feel good about the game and get out of there early. But please bear this in mind. The only person whose time is important when you are running a demo is the person being demoed.